Hello and welcome to my channel. So today kind of part of a hop, a collab, whatever you want to call it. A few of us who have attended Fodder School this year have volunteered to show off our projects and the things that we've made during Fodder School 1. Fodder School 2, of course, is going to start next month. I believe registration is still open for that. But today we'll probably give you a little bit of an idea of what kind of things we made during Fodder School, what kind of things we did. I'm not going to obviously go into any details of how things are done. You need to obviously attend Fodder School to learn those things. But there will be links below to the other participants in this video hop who will also be showing what they've made during Fodder School. So you'll kind of see a real variety, different takes on the way we have interpreted and been inspired by the fantastic 12 teachers that we've had during this last year, from last October through to this month in September. So I'm just going to quickly go through the different months and show you what we produced, the final project basically for each of those months and with each of those teachers. I don't quite know how Fodder School 2 will work, but Fodder School 1 was very much the first half of the month you would create fodder paper and create bits and pieces to make your final project, which was in the second half of the month. Fodder School 2 might be a bit different, but that's how Fodder School 1 worked essentially. So I'm going to start off with the first month, last October 21. And this was the final project that we made in October last year. So this is what we call a Fodder Keeper. And this is a kind of journal, if you like, with little pockets. And we use this to keep all the fodder that we make during the 12 months. So there's lots of different fodder gone in here since. But also during the month we made these lovely watercolour flowers. We made, I think we made lots of watercolour leaves and mushrooms and basically some botanical fodder with watercolour. And we've used the Fodder Keeper to keep those organised along with some other things. And that lesson was brought to us by Tiffany Sharp. So that was October. And then in November we had Catrin. And we did a couple of things here. We learnt how to make our own rubber stamps, which was really great fun, carving our own stamps. And I did a combination of some botanical shapes, just some mark making, kind of approaching Christmas. So I made some sort of Christmassy type rubber stamps, Christmas trees and things like that. So there was a load of stuff that I've even got some more carving material to make some more. And the final project, we made this little sort of diorama. We used some chipboard cutouts. I actually only had a few of those, so I made my own cutouts as well with some hard chipboard. And then we used some of the chipboard decorations and created this little sort of fold-out diorama type thing, which we then decorated and put a closure on it. And that was Catrin. And then in December we had Amy Bishop, who did some amazing stuff with us. We did some dyed paper, dyed fabrics, we did mark making, lots of things, most of which you will see in these wall pieces, which I think she called them amulets. So these are sort of canvases, but we used the other side. And then we used all the fodder that we made during the month and created these final kind of three-dimensional, full of texture, added stitching, all sorts of wonderful things. I think I probably made about 8 of these. I just really enjoyed that month. Just loved the sort of tactile, three-dimensional end result. So I did get a bit carried away and made quite a lot of those. Then in January we had, I believe it was Autumn Moon. One of the things I distinctly remember about this project was the sort of secret writing that we did. So it was used systemic writing to kind of use that as kind of decorative on the top of different decorated papers, etc. And then we made some painted papers, and we created this sort of little kind of journal, threefold journal. So it kind of had a pocket in the middle where we could put things, and then we decorated all of the pages. And I really loved the kind of end resulting journal here, and I think I'll probably definitely go back to this journal and maybe add a few more bits and pieces to that. But that was the project that we did in January. And then in February, I don't actually have any of the finished assemblages, but we created some watercolour botanicals. Actually, there's some in the Fodder Keeper, I think, still left that I have. Yeah, these sort of botanical fodders using stencils. And then out of those, we created kind of these assemblages. I've used them all up. They're all in different journals. There's one in this journal here. And then I have another in this journal. That's another one. And then we have another one here. That's another one. So that was with Megan Weisner-Quinlan. And we created these sort of beautiful watercolour background pages as well as the kind of botanical fodders. And then we made these little clusters, which of course, collage clusters, which of course you can then go and use in your journals, which I have definitely done that. That was in February. And then in March, we did some lovely monoprinting and tissue wraps and lots of texture with a limited palette. And we created this sort of final wall piece on top of I think she did it on a board, a hard board. I did it on a canvas. But again, it was combining all the papers that we had produced during the first half of the month, and then out of those papers we created a kind of collaged final piece. And that's there. So that was Rebecca Chapman. Then in April we had Sarah Gardner, who we created some micro fodder, and the end project with Sarah was making these ATCs, or artist trading cards, which we then in the second half of the month completed the cards and shared and sent the cards out. So I think the brief was to create 10, send them out, and then we received 10 back as well, obviously. So these are a few of the ATCs that I created during that month. So that was a great thing. She also did there's lots of other things that the teachers bring into the class as well, which are great things to learn. Sarah helped us with sort of swatching out our colours, some ideas for swatching out colours and organising your colour palettes and paints and things, which can get a bit disorganised when you collect so many. And then in May we had Laura Dame. We did some lovely gel printing and spray printing. We made these sort of collaged wall pieces. And we did some mark making as well. And then in June we also did some again, some with some of the, we made some fodder, and then we created these master sheets. And unfortunately, for both of these months, I don't have any of the final project pieces because I gave them away, because that was the whole point of the project. We created these pieces that we then, what they call art abandonment. So you would just leave them. I left them in my local parks and around around the lakes where I live for people to find. And basically you're sharing your art with the world, and it was called Fodder the World. And I used the pieces that I created during the month of May and the month of June with Laura and Tracy. So it's a combination of jelly printing and mark making and master sheets, and that's kind of, here's a few of the kind of swatches that I kept from those fodder making sessions, just to remind myself. Those are the ATCs for Sarah. I don't think I actually kept any of what we did with Tracy, but they were lovely, and I'll definitely revisit those lessons and create more of that fodder, and more of the finished art pieces. And then in July of this year, we had Roxanne Paget, and we created some wonderful painted papers, and we created this lovely kind of dress design, and out of all of the stuff that we produced in the first half of the month, we then went and created this lovely accordion book or journal. I covered the back side of this accordion journal with some of the papers I had, but that was a great class, using different cutouts and collage techniques and layering, lots of layers and different textures. That was a fantastic project, and I have made a couple more similar little accordion journals since then as well. And then in August, we probably one of my favourite months. It's very hard to decide which one was my favourite, but one of them definitely was August, and that was with Wendy Solganic, or Willow Wonders, one of the hosts of Fodder School, and we've created this lovely fabric covered journal. This was the cover, and we created these wonderful collaged painted papers that we used then for the pages of the journal. Lots of fabric, lots of texture, lots of little details that we then added. Having made the journal, we just went in and added all these lovely little bits and pieces. There was a fodder challenge that we did. I'll show you a little few bits and pieces from that, but you'll see those in another video. I'll put the link below in that. But I thought this was a good video to do, to share all of the projects that I've done. But yeah, this was a really lovely project, and that's a sort of almost like a completed project journal in itself, which I'm sure we'll still go back in and out of to add to. And then the final project this month in September was we created these lovely, we did some other printing, paper printing, painting techniques. We also created these lovely faux stamps, which kind of using sort of micro collaging, and the same micro collaging with these lovely vintage slides where we added photos and little vintage ephemera. We created those. And then we also created as well this lovely little envelope, which is kind of form part of this final journal, where we decorated the inserts and have made a kind of a list journal, and lots of vintage goodness in this one. Again, I've used some of the bits and pieces we've made in the challenge and made during the previous months in here. Some of those little pockets and all these lists for me to create and add to. And I'll definitely be carrying on working in this journal. I chose not to do the final exam part of this project only because I really wanted to use this lovely leather journal cover from Charmed Goods, which I hadn't found a use for until now. So I thought this particular project would have worked really, really well with this. So that really, in a nutshell, is Fodder School 1. As I said, we had Fodder School Challenge. In Fodder School Challenge, gosh, there's so many things. We drew, I think, as a teacher in Fodder School 2. We created these lovely collaged final pieces. I created this little mini keeper, which I kept all of my ATC cards that were sent to me during Sarah's month in April. I put those ATCs in this little mini kind of Fodder Keeper, which again was a challenge project. I don't have access to those challenge projects now, so I didn't make notes. So I've lost. I'm not sure who the artists were now. They were all artists from Fodder School 2. I know that much. So if you like some of these little projects, they are going to be teachers in Fodder School 2. And that's it really for Fodder School 1. Some wonderful projects. I've absolutely loved every single minute of this course immensely. I've learned so much. And I think just to finish off, what I'd like to do is just share with you some key things if you're thinking of joining either Fodder School 1 or Fodder School 2. Some of the things that I definitely will bear in mind when I go on. I am doing Fodder School 2 as well, and I definitely do maybe a little bit differently, or make sure I do certain things that maybe I didn't do in Fodder School 1. In Fodder School 1, they suggest using a limited palette. But it's not compulsory, and to be honest with you, although my intention was to do that, I didn't. So I ended up just completely ignoring that and going with, I'm just using the lessons and the techniques that I learned to explore different colour palettes as well. So I really followed the colour palettes and the colour styles, if you like, of the individual teachers. And I deliberately mimicked the techniques and the projects as much as I could, based on the original teacher's project, because I think in some respects that's the best way to learn, is just to try and replicate something. It's a good way to learn new techniques that maybe you wouldn't necessarily try and use otherwise. But it's certainly something that I found really useful when I did Fodder School 1. Fodder School 2, my intention is to do it a little bit differently and start trying to put my own kind of mark and my own style onto things. So I think in Fodder School 2, I'll be interpreting the lessons a little bit more and maybe using them to inspire me, influence. I'm sure I'll still learn lots of new little techniques and things, but I really want to kind of start exploring my own style in Fodder School 2. So I probably won't be mimicking the end products as much as I did in Fodder School 1. The other thing we had was recommended at the beginning was to start a Fodder School sketchbook, which I did, and for most months I did add to my sketchbook. I did some colour stuff. I did add bits and pieces from the lessons during the month just to remind me of what we did. Keep little swatches of what we created just for future reference, that kind of thing. But I didn't do it every month. I wasn't very consistent. There's months missing and things like that. But now at the end, I kind of wish I had kind of been a little bit more religious in terms of keeping my sketchbook. And there was a lesson, and I can't remember who it was now. It could have been Tracy Wozniak. I'm not exactly sure, but there was a lesson more on the sketchbook, and I definitely will think seriously about how I want to keep my next sketchbook for Fodder School 2. I may even carry on using this one because there's still half a book left. It's a bit of a waste for me to not complete this. So I might still continue using this and use this to record my Fodder School too. So this will be a whole kind of 2 years of Fodder School. So that's all I have to share with you today. Thanks very much. As I said, there's links below to the other video hops that you can see what other people have done during Fodder School. Thank you very much for watching. Bye for now.